All right, according to my clock, it's 3 o'clock Eastern Time, 12 o'clock PT. So let's begin. My name is Nicole Taylor, and I am a Big Leap coach. I'm really happy to be with you all today here on Hendricks How-Tos, where we share some of the shorter, super practical practices from the body of work created by Katie Hendricks and Gay Hendricks. And this is one of my favorites. It's called Unhooking the Source. And in this practice, we use our body to help unhook from things in the past that have a grip on us today and that are taking our aliveness away. And I'll share a really practical recent time that I used this practice. I had a pretty intense medical event happen last year, and it was before a surgery. And then a month after that, I needed to have the surgery. And that was really scary. Was the same thing going to happen? You know, just trusting that it was going to be okay was a little bit hard. And so I remembered this practice, unhooking the source. And as I was in the waiting room, I was noticing difference. Kind of, oh, okay. Last time I was here, I was sitting in that part of the waiting room. So this time I'm going to sit in this part of the waiting room. And then when I was wheeled into the nurses, last time I was here, there was a different kind of a nurse that had blonde hair, and this one has brown hair, and just noticing that I was in a different bed. And so there's a world where noticing difference when we're doing something that brings up fear can be really useful. And as I made those connections between what was different this time, I noticed my sense of agency and my sense of aliveness starting to come back. So I want to do this with you. I want to invite you to think of a time, not to think of a time, to think of a belief, a situation, a set of experiences that has come up recently that feels alive for you today, that might be like contracting you a little bit or making you feel like you don't have as much choice. Just take a moment, maybe pull out a journal or just let yourself think about what is a current place where you feel that sense of constriction. A current place where whenever you engage with this person, or whenever you see this thing on the news, or whenever you encounter a similar experience, you're just brought immediately into the past. Just go ahead and let yourself think of that. Something where you can feel, like in my body, what happens is I can feel almost like the backpack of similar things is heavy when I'm engaging with that. Another example, I had a client recently who I'm a coach, but I'm also a consultant. And in my consulting world, I had a client recently in the January of 24, where I just felt like a little constricted around her. And she was reminding me of other people that I had had conflict with. And so that's the example I'm going to use today, is how I use that. And I hope that you have an example now so that we can begin. So go ahead, and as you have this thing that brings up stuff from the past, go ahead and let yourself kind of see in the space the time that that belief, or the time that you were with that person that this new person reminds you of. Go ahead and let yourself see where that might be. Just place it somewhere in the room. I'm going to put mine over there by my shoes. All right. And then in the example I want to share of kind of knowing that I had someone else's face over this client's face, what I would say with that was then. Point with my right hand to the past, and this is now. And as I do that, I start to feel a little bit of heat in the belly, and my heart is sped up a little bit, and now it's slowing down. So I'm making that connection of like, oh, this thing that I'm bringing forward into the current client is actually something from 4 years ago. Interesting. That was her. That was that situation that felt hard. And this is me. And as I do that, I feel a sense of sadness in the chest. So there's some emotion coming up. And I'm recalling that this person reminds me of some pretty intense familial relationships that don't feel that great. So I can see why I would bring that sense of fear or that sense of constriction into relating with this person. But as I unhook, I start to see that it's not the exact same thing, right? That was how I responded in the past. And I have choices about how I respond now. And that was nice. That brought up a good breath. And sometimes we can use the breath purposefully, but I often feel that when that unhooking is happening, a a wave of breath that's deeper just naturally comes. We are not necessarily trying to make the breath shift, but that comes on its own. So I hope you're doing this with me. If you're just joining now, I see some new folks coming. We are at Hendricks How-Tos, and we're doing Unhooking the Source. And this is really when we are aware of something from the past that has us hooked, so that when we're dealing with the present, we can feel like we're bringing that forward. And it might be something we learned. It might be a learned behavior that was in our family of origin that we're not choosing anymore, but we just kind of brought that forward. It might be a behavior that's very much our own that has helped us in the past, but it doesn't feel useful in this situation. It might be that we're realizing that an older version of us might have responded this way, and today's version of us has more tools, has more agency, and is able to respond from their full sense of aliveness. So that's what we're playing with right now. I'll do the medical version. So I was sharing that I had something happen where something was hard medically, and then I had to repeat the same thing in a month. And this is how I did that. It was like, okay, that was in August, and right now it's September. And even though this passed already, I can still feel the unhooking of like, ooh, okay, those things were hard. And today I'm here. I feel my seat in the chair, feel very aware of my feet on the ground. So I'm coming like right back into this moment. Yeah. Ooh. That was that nurse. And today I have a very different care team. Yeah. And I can feel my breath deepen when I do that. Hmm. Yeah. That was a whole other ball of wax. And this is a completely different experience that I can have today. I'm just noticing that. Yeah. So in unhooking the source, we're really about I really do. It's funny. I had never noticed that before, but I really do get this image in my mind of all of the times that that particular flavor of fear came up. It's like a heavy backpack, and now I'm putting it on and it's blowing me over in this present moment. And so I feel like unhooking the source, you're both unhooking from the past, but you're also like taking off that heavy backpack so that you can have what is right here, right now available to you. And often when we're bringing in the past in that way, we're not right here, right now. So we don't have our full agency. So much of our mental awareness, embodied awareness is still hooked to that place that was there before us. And so when we learn to do that was then, this is now, that was them, this is me. And you can do that with all manner of things. I my third example I want to give you is well, there's a lot happening in the political sphere. And I will say that a lot of that was then, this is now. That was how the response happened before. I can create something different this time. that can be really helpful also when we're engaging with things that feel familiar, and yet we want to avail ourselves to the resources that we have now. So I hope that you have found this to be useful, that you might wish to unhook from the source of whatever for you feels like it's kind of you're in the grip of the past. And the other thing I want to say about unhooking the source is when we're in the grip of the past, we can't bring forward the wisdom that's inherent in being able to move through it. So this is not about pretending like something didn't happen. This is about unhooking so that with all the resources you have now, you might be able to feel into the wisdom that is available to you right now. And just to offer that can be another way to do it. All right. So again, really quickly, unhooking the source. You want to find in the room where you would put that. I put it over there because I thought having it in my shoes was kind of cute. You might put it behind you. You might put it, in an actual artifact that reminds you of that time. The most important piece, I don't know if it's the most important, but a important piece about this embodied exercise is use different hands. We don't want to use the same hand. So that was then, this is now. That was them, this is me. That's your business, this is my business. That was that time 4 years ago, this is this time today. So we want to use the opposite hand and notice body sensations. So I can tend to be fast. This is one where it's really useful for me to slow down. Because that was them, this is me. Like the way I just demonstrated it, we actually want to slow it down a lot more than that. So that was them, this is me, and then feel what you feel. You're not trying to manufacture anything or just bringing curiosity to what is the embodied experience of acknowledging that that was another time. And then be with what that brings up. You saw for me, it brought up heat. I waited for the wave of heat to move through. Brought up a good breath, waited for that wave of breath to move through. And then once you have been with what it brings up, then you can do another round of unhooking. And how long do you do it is a question clients often use or often have. You do it until you start to feel more of your sense of aliveness. And you do it as long as you can remain present with it, to be honest, right? Like it's not like do it for 5 minutes. It's how long can you really be with when you make these motions and you're doing this unhooking. You can feel your embodied experience and be present with that. And if at some point it starts to feel rote or you're checking out on yourself, then probably not as useful anymore. And you've done what you can do in that moment at that time. All right. So thank you very much. And it was good to be with you all today. And I hope that you have a wonderful day with the rest of your day. I'm going to look at the chat to see if there's any questions. Great. Seeing that this is useful right now. Fabulous. Okay. All right. Take good care, everyone.